The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good, where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages,
all of them
are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast. Move this box. Damn you, Hollywood. And here's your host, Robert Winfree. Yay!
Hi, everybody. Your resident Grinch here. Because I must once again stand atop the mountain of logic and say, what you like is not very good, but feel free to enjoy it.
Those of you who tuned in last week to our little unholy duology, as we called it, a review of Late Night the Devil, you probably caught the only time Robert was actually positive about a movie in the year 2024.
I was nice to Dune 2.
Sure. You didn't have any major complaints about Dune 2, but I have to say, you threw enough qualifiers in there that I didn't have to immediately pounce on you and say, no, Robert likes stuff, and then bite your face.
Look, we all know it's going to be a rough year, so...
Hey, why don't you tell the people who we are and what we do?
Well, you heard Mark. He introduced everything. You heard Alexis chime in. Alexis, how you doing?
Doing good. Glad to be here. Rocking my one of my kaiju shirts for the occasion.
Yes.
Very nice.
And tonight we will be discussing Godzilla Kong, or Godzilla X Kong, or Godzilla Times Kong.
Or Godzilla to the Kong Power.
Or don't ever search this on the internet because you will get some stuff you do not want to see.
Searching on porn. Sorry.
Shouldn't there be like 2 more X's then if you're going to get that kind of stuff?
You don't need it for the ship.
You don't need it. All right. Speaking of things you do need.
No, Mark. There's a subhead, the New Empire, which makes no sense.
I mean,
for the rest.
Well, apparently, according to both this and Sony, the New Empire is going to be ice.
The dumbest thing. The dumb of all the subheadings you could have had for Godzilla and Kong team up. The New Empire, followed by no empires being established.
You know what I would have called this? You know what I would have called this? Godzilla X Kong, the Road Warriors, or Godzilla X Kong Demolition, or Godzilla X Kong the Freebird.
Electric Boogaloo?
No. He's referencing really old professional wrestling tag teams that no one understands. No one gets your references.
But it makes me laugh, and at least one of the people on Twitter currently watching us got that joke and laughed too.
About that. You're trying to play to the odds, and I think you're wrong.
Godzilla times X the Heart Foundation, because Godzilla is the best there was, the best there is, and the best there ever will be.
And Kong is a passable Jim Neidhart with less hair.
See, I went for the joke that you would actually go with me on instead of going the other way. All right, Godzilla. If you'd shut up for 2 seconds, Godzilla X: The New Empire is the 2024 American monster film directed by Adam Wingard, produced by Legendary Pictures, one of the only studios making passable quality pictures. It is a sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong and the 5th film in the MonsterVerse franchise. It is also the 38th film of the Godzilla franchise and the 13th film in the King Kong franchise. It stars people who nobody cares about, with the possible exception of Dan Stevens.
I don't know who that is.
He Piercing was blue eyes. You've seen him in a bunch of other stuff that we've.
He plays Robert. What's his nuts from Legion.
The main character.
I have never watched Legion.
Oh, you're missing out. It's a great show.
Okay, you remember when we reviewed Cabinet of Curiosities, the infomercial story with the girl with the and she starts hallucinating that the TV is telling her to keep using the product?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the spokesman with the enough Aquanet in his hair to probably cause a hole in the ozone and those crazy piercing blue eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, him.
In the film, Kong encounters more of his species in the Hollow Earth and must unite with Godzilla to stop their tyrannical leader and a powerful frost-breathing titan from destroying the surface. Godzilla times Kong: The New Empire premiered at the Grauman's Chinese Theater in Los Angeles on March 25th, 2024, and was released in the U.S. on March 29th. It received mixed reviews, go figure, from
About
critics
right.
and has grossed $194 million worldwide, making it the 7th highest-grossing film of 2024 thus far. All right, no preamble TikTok bit tonight because there's something we're going to talk about when we get to the craft review. So, Robert,
Yo.
I figure a few sentences and then just growl and snarl and drool into the camera, and that'll cover the plot, yeah?
Doesn't he already do that?
So we open with everyone's favorite primate, King Kong, as he meanders about the Hollow Earth, and he's sad because he's got a toothache.
I've been there.
Toothaches, rotten. Having a rotten tooth sucks, or a tooth infection.
And look, the worst review Mark and I ever did was because I was in pain from a partially finished root canal.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying I'm not sympathetic. I'm saying it makes you a little bitch.
Okay, move on.
So Kong is unhappy because he's lonely and he's sad and he's a big unhappy monkey and his tooth hurts and all that stuff. And he's moping around, but he's developed a human-like intelligence for designing primitive traps. Lots of foresight. He has pit traps. He has trip lines. He's got swinging rocks, collapsible cliff sides. He's got it all, baby.
So I actually
King Kong is the new Jigsaw. It would be an awesome version of Saw, by the way, where King Kong is actually Jigsaw. Now go, Alexis.
I had to step out of the theater for a minute, and when it got to the point where he's tripping up the other apes and the traps, I was sitting there going, did I seriously miss something? I actually thought that those traps were for those were made by the other apes, and they were just so stupid they were falling into their own traps.
We'll get to the orcs in a second, I promise.
I don't think it matters. Keep going. Come on. Push through, buddy.
No. Kong made those. He hunts with them. Like, those are things he created around his domicile to make it safe.
Yeah.
Genius monkey.
Yep.
So our inciting incident then becomes a bizarre energy pulse that is messing up electrical equipment. It's screwing with Monarch and it's waking up all kinds of nasty beasts on the top side. And we see Godzilla beat down a crab in the middle of Rome. And then he spends the next half of the movie sleeping in the Colosseum.
Like I said, reminded me too much of my dog curled up in her bed.
He's like, you know what? This is my place now. I will nap here.
Surprised they didn't show him peeing on it.
We're not sure Godzilla has bodily functions. It's never been confirmed or denied. So Kong, again, this is kind of what incites this is the human side of this, which no one cares about, but takes up way too much time of the movie. We have a little deaf girl who is the last surviving member of the Iwi tribe from Skull Island. She's been adopted by one of the Monarch scientists, and she's being buzzed by this pulse of energy every time it goes off, and she's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't feel good. And her mom goes, it's okay, sweetie. With the power of this Volkswagen, we can just overcome any family drama. And then they get into the product placement and leave. Kong climbs up to the surface because my tooth hurts and there's no dentist. The dental plan of the Hollow Earth is not very good. So he goes topside. And wannabe Ace Ventura pet detective shows up with his banana chips and weird musical tastes and performs dental work on him. Then they all follow him back down because while he was up here, something destroyed one of the Monarch outposts down in the bottom. So they go down and Kong starts sniffing around and he goes through a crack in the earth. So he goes to the, what would this be? The Hollow Earth?
I think they called it the Subterranean Valley.
Subterranean realm, yes.
The subterranean realm of the subterranean Earth that we're already on, and yeah, this whole naming scheme is stupid. But while there, he encounters Dewey from Malcolm in the Middle. This goofy-looking, big-eared product merchandising opportunity ape that runs away from him. But then other apes show up. Apes bearing the white hand of Sauron. I mean, the red hand of
Scar King.
The red hand of Scaron over here. And Kong then picks up the little monkey and proceeds to use him as a club to hit the other monkeys.
Best moment in the movie, easily.
Probably. He defeats these ones, and then he grabs the little guy by the head and goes, "Take me to your leader." And he goes, "Fine, if you think that's a good idea." But they do this in ape, so it takes longer, and there's no dialogue. And they start going.
Let me tell you how it's awesome. I hope this movie makes $1 zillion because it's all like grunts and growls and barely any English language, and that's why people love it and see it 1 zillion times. I've seen it twice.
I'll say the fact is that the humans are only around to explain things that cannot be figured out by grunts and growls and scratches.
And I was way okay with that. Keep going.
I was too.
I'll get to it. It's one of my gripes.
Mm-hmm.
So they start journeying through the Hollow Earth, and they come to a big lake, and the little... but you really shouldn't trust Dewey from Malcolm in the Middle. He's always the instigator.
Yeah,
and he lures Kong in.
This was another Gollum Frodo moment where, no, it's fine to go into the
cave.
Hang
on, I'm getting there.
Okay.
Damn it, I think you beat him to the joke.
You did. I'm kind of pissed.
Okay, keep going.
So, big old water serpent comes out of the water, fights Kong. Kong beats it, and then still, like, confronts little monkey merchandising So baby Kongda here. And he drags him. He proceeds to drag him around by the scruff of the neck. They keep journeying. They're walking across the. They're walking. There's a lot of walking, similar to another movie that Mark referenced. They walk because the little guy somehow got way out. They're all way out here for some reason. Meanwhile, on the Earth, Godzilla's getting these pulses, and he's like, "Okay, I need stuff." So while Kong is laid up with a bad tooth, Godzilla eats a French nuclear facility.
Godzilla goes through, those scenes in cop movies where the cop breaks into the back room with all the confiscated weapons, and you have him like suiting up and grabbing all the guns and everything he can. That's essentially what Godzilla's doing. Yeah, so he eats a French nuclear reactor, then gets a bunch of missiles launched at him that he just tanks because he's awesome. Then now being superpowered a little bit, he swims up north to the Arctic, where he encounters a titan they've called Tiamat. It's a big purple snake. You know that the D&D fans were grumbling at the waste of that name.
Guys.
A, it's older than D&D. B, if Ghidorah only gets 3 heads, we're not doing the 5-headed queen of all evil dragons. Then Godzilla proceeds to just tear that thing apart. Then climbs into a little case under the ice, and starts absorbing more cosmic energy, and eventually he turns into a Super Saiyan God, hence the red/purple. But we'll get there. That's a very obscure reference I don't think either of you will get.
I've watched all of Dragon Ball Z. I know exactly what you're talking about.
There we go. So back on the underworld, again, little Dewey Gollum does in fact lead Hobbit Kong over the Bridge of Skulls into the land of Mordor, where everything is fire and ash, and the very air you breathe is a poisonous fume. One does not simply walk into Mordor, even if you're Kong.
For the record, that little gorilla or the little ape's got a name according to Wikipedia. It's Suko. Suko.
Okay. So Diddy Kong keeps dragging around Donkey Kong.
Not gonna find it.
And he drags him to where all the apes are, and all the apes are here, and they're moving rocks around. We don't know why, but they're moving rocks around. And Kong's like, "Boy, some of you guys are kind of. This isn't great. This isn't great for the apes." And the apes who have the red hand of Scaron are like, "No, we're in charge here. So this is pretty good for us." And Kong punches one of them out. Like you do. But this pisses everyone off, so Christopher Walken's Gigantopithecus from the Jungle Book movie unfurls himself from his seat of power and walks out and is like, "What are you doing, man? I got a good thing going on here. What's up?" And Kong's like, I'm Kong. What do you mean, what's up?" He goes, "Oh, you're an underdeveloped primate. Fine, let me explain how this works." They wind up fighting. It doesn't go well for Kong because it's his first time fighting the boss, and that never goes well for the hero.
He's also got a freaking kunai rope that he apparently stole from Scorpion.
Clearly. And he disarms Kong of his axe, and Kong's all, "My axe, it's my one connection to my history." But he does, again, it's not going great, but Kong staged a little bit of a comeback, so Scaron over there raises his hand and calls for the outside interference. So monkeys on top push a bunch of rocks in front of the lava flow, and out steps the Yeti.
I was going to say Elsa from Frozen as a dinosaur.
No, I stuck with the pro wrestling reference there, the Yeti, which is, oh boy, what a mistake that was. But out steps our frost-powered kaiju, which is going to be the other thing that's going on here. And it is controlled by this weird little thing, little spike on the end of Scar's whip weapon that is made of, it's just a spinal column with vertebrae attached from something else he already killed. And he gets it to breathe ice on Kong, and Kong's right hand gets freezer burned and like loses nerve functionality. And it's going real bad for him, but he escapes because of course he does. And he goes to reconnect with the humans. The humans this whole time have been wandering around Hollow Earth. One of them dies, eaten by a tree, like you do.
Hey, someone had to be the red shirt.
Someone did. And sadly, it was him and not other guys. But what they found ultimately is a remnant of the Iwi tribe that is all down here. And these people all communicate telepathically, and they're the ones who've been sending out this signal because it's a distress call. They need help. You see, way back in the day, the great apes were the protectors of humanity, and the Titans were on the surface world, and all was great. But there was an evil great ape. In fact, it's our Scaron character, who's been alive for a really long time, apparently. And he wanted the apes to rise up. He took all the good elves and he tortured and mutilated them and turned them into orcs. And he wanted to conquer Middle Earth. And so they waged war on Godzilla, which did not go well for them. Godzilla defeated them and he trapped them in Mordor. And they've never been able to get out until now for no discernible reason other than plot contrivance. Yeah. But now, with Kong having been back down here, and Kong, because he's a lonely monkey, looking for friends, was going to find them, and that was going to trigger this whole thing. So they're like, "Please come help." And by the way, if there happens to be one last Iwi from Skull Island, that would be really great, because only one of you is able to wake Mothra back up, because there's another Mothra down here.
Yeah, I have questions about that, but not enough to completely derail the plot synopsis for 20 minutes while we discuss it. So we'll double back to that when it's appropriate.
There's always more Mothras. It's the long and the short of that.
Great.
So Mothra gets kind of woken up. One of the monkeys has followed Kong to this place because Kong's here to get help. His right hand is messed up, and they give him the power gauntlet. And he's like, "Hey, this thing is actually a really terrible method of controlling a video game, but I've got it and I like it."
You mean the Power Glove, by the way?
Whatever.
Okay, keep going. Some Nintendo nerd probably that rubbed his tits the wrong way, and I wanted to make sure I got said right. Power Glove.
I assumed you were trying to make a Nintendo and Marvel reference at the same time.
Little bit.
Behold the Power Gauntlet.
I need the 5 Infinity cartridges to make it work.
All right, keep going.
So Kong gets this thing that powers him up a little bit now, and it's great. He can punch things a little bit harder now, and it helps. And there's injections that fix all the nerve damage. And
so I just assumed those were pain relievers.
So Kong gets the Super Soldier Serum mixed with fentanyl. Go.
Pretty much. And right about now, everything goes sideways. You see Scaron shows up with the orcs, and they assault the White Tower of Minas Tirith. That is, these pyramids floating in the Hollow Earth. No, sorry. He shows up in a minute. First, Kong goes up top and is like, I need some help from Godzilla. And Godzilla's finished his power nap now, so he's all supercharged.
By the way, the one thing, it's like Kong goes to the surface. Friend from our previous movie, we have a truce, and in this truce, I need some help. And Godzilla, having gone plumb retarded at this point, is like, no, kill everything. No. We've worked this out. Remember, I go my way, you go your way. Well, there's a problem coming your way, and I need you to come down. And Godzilla goes, no, kill everybody. And Kong goes, why me?
The look on Kong's face when Godzilla charged him, and he suddenly just realized he's like, whoa, just literally putting his hands up.
King Kong's face when he realizes Godzilla won't listen to him is me looking at the rest of you most of the time. Like, just pained and frustrated, and why won't any of you listen? This is a simple concept, and none of you fucking get it. I am King Kong. The rest of you, Godzilla. Just angry and pink and screaming into the clouds for no good reason.
The
if we're Godzilla, then I get to suplex you over the Great Pyramid of Giza.
You can get me up. You can suplex me, baby. Go ahead, Robert.
You're the one turning purple at the moment, Mark. I just want to point that out.
No idea just how purple I'm going to get soon. Finish up.
So, because this movie now needs an action scene, Godzilla and Kong wreck the pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
And Godzilla's about to kill Kong because he's having one of these, how many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man, kind of moments. When Mothra shows up...
freaking knocks him out and he's dragging him by his tail.
I didn't want to say anything because I was going to save it for the crap, but that is my favorite image of this whole thing. Just, again, tired old Mark, just aggravated with everyone in his life, dragging them into a hole. Come on, stupid. And stupid gets up and goes, I will not be dragged anywhere. I must be free and full of autonomy.
Autonomy / radiation.
Yes.
Yeah. Then anyway, Mothra shows up and she's like, boys, knock it off.
Yeah,
fight's down there.
Mom shows up.
Pretty much.
Like, okay, are you two done with the dick measuring contest?
So they go down into the Hollow Earth, and again, now the orcs show up, all bearing the red hand of doom. And now we get the big fight. And the humans decide to mess things up. So there's these two magic pyramids that they bang together. And this makes gravity go wonky because for some reason we need a 0G scene in this.
It was enough to keep them from going back up into the look. Here's the thing. The end zone.
Let me finish. You're getting into a craft point. Just let me finish.
Well, no, it was a plot point. The end zone. The end zone is the surface. The whole plot of this thing is that the Red King Sauron, our villain monkey, is trying to get to the surface so that he can wage war on the humans and take it over. He wants to take over the world. They have to get through the portal to do it. They are trying to slow him down because if he gets to where the Iwi are, he'll get into the portal and all is lost. So they're doing the zero gravity thing to essentially create enough time and space for Godzilla and King Kong to come back and beat the shit out of him. Go.
So that doesn't actually work, thus rendering the whole thing pointless.
Yeah, he gets up into the portal anyway.
So Godzilla and Kong show up, and there's a bit of a fight, and we're still dragging Dewey around. He kills one of the monkeys. Sort of indirect. He kicks it off a cliff after it's trying to drag him down. But we all wind up on the surface because, of course. So outside of Rio de Janeiro, we get our big final battle where Scaron has arrived. He comes to the surface. He's like, yay, the surface. But orcs don't like sunlight. So he goes, this sucks. Sunlight sensitivity. I don't want to be a disadvantage on all my rolls. You, my beast of burden, breathe ice into the clouds, and this will blot out the sun, and we will turn this into Mordor. And the poor kaiju's like, whatever. I'll breathe the ice. I'll do my parlor trick. So he breathes the ice out. And now Scar's like, okay, I get to wreck some stuff. Yay, this is great. And then Kong shows up and punches one of his teeth out. You see, because earlier, Scar had made fun of him for having a human tooth, a fake one, because they yanked out one and they put in a fake one. and he made fun of his dental work. And now he punched one of his teeth out and make fun of my dental work, will you?
Chekhov's gun, baby.
Chekhov's tooth.
And then they fight through Rio de Janeiro. Godzilla shows up, and again, there's a lot of fighting. But the long and the short of this one comes to they eventually break Scar's weapon that has the control crystal in it, and it kind of rattles around the ground, and Godzilla's laser breathing everything because he doesn't give a fuck.
Well, he's shooting at the monkey, and the monkey is using his agility and speed to maneuver around it, and so Godzilla out of bullets. Godzilla's out of bullets. King Kong's tired. The villain is home free. He just needs to pick up the football and run to the end zone, and then
hang on. So,
oh my God, I can't even think of the wrestler's name. With coming in with the chair.
So Kong and Scar are fighting, trying to get to the control crystal. And then in comes Gimli with his axe, and he's like, you know what? This didn't work the first time when I hit the ring with it, but this time, by God, and it does. He hits the control crystal with the axe. It explodes. Our frost kaiju kind of shakes his head and goes, oh, whatever magic bullshit that was no longer works. I'm good now.
Yeah, no, sorry. We have to keep doing the bit. So the Frost Titan looks at Godzilla and he says, I remember your face. And Godzilla's like, that's great. Kill. And so he does.
No. If I'm going to ruin the bit because it's my bit, so I can ruin it.
Sure.
So Godzilla's about to just atomic breath this thing into the ground. And it kind of shakes its head and looks at Godzilla and goes, Mothra? And he goes, why did you say that name?
Very good.
So Kong then face palms Scar and holds him up in the air, and the other thing freezes him so that Kong can then crush him once he's frozen without a lot of blood and guts. Never mind that he took a bloodbath earlier. And Kong and Godzilla share a moment where Kong's like, okay, so if we have to do this again, we still got to do this thing. And Kong's like, listen, Sammy, I'm Kevin Owens. You're a ginger bitch. This is always how this is going to go. Now you go back down under the ground like a good boy. I'm going to go back to the Coliseum and take a nap. And Kong's like, fine, I'm exasperated, but he puts Dewey on his back. Then he gets on the Frost thing, which technically makes Dewey the new King of the Apes. They all go back underground. They go to the oppressed peoples. And Kong raises his fist and goes, apes together strong. We will create the kingdom of the planet of the apes. Follow me, my brothers, and there'll be many more movies in this franchise.
Meanwhile, back in the city, the mom and the daughter, which we completely
nothing of value happens. Leave it alone.
She has served her purpose. She has the signal is gone, so she's no longer feeling like I don't understand why I don't fit in with humans. And the mom and the daughter have this moment where like, oh, our home is with each other. And so even though she is Iwi, she will go back with mom and they will love each other as mother and daughter. And it's fantastic.
Don't worry. I signed a contract. I'm up for at least 2 more movies with you.
Let us begin our craft review with a simple discussion of a very simple question that was posed in our group chat that I think deserves at least 10 minutes of exploration, a little less than 10 minutes, a TikTok length. And that is the following. Why is Godzilla hardly in the Godzilla movie? And let me track this for people, Robert. Let me track this for people who, wait, what? So Godzilla 2014, and we're just talking about the MonsterVerse movies now, but we can really go back through Godzilla -1, a whole series of Godzilla movies where the question is, hey, why isn't there more Godzilla in this thing? But it's a specific issue with the MonsterVerse movies because Godzilla 2014, they went out of their way to barely show Godzilla up until like the very end.
Hang on. 14 minutes.
Yeah. And then he's more of a presence in Godzilla King of the Monsters. He's obviously not in Kong Skull Island.
15 minutes.
And then we get to Godzilla versus Kong from 2021.
11 minutes.
Okay.
Someone's tracked this out. Feel free to double check me.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm wrong. It's 11, 14, 11. And then he's got like 10 here.
So he only had 14 minutes of screen time in King of the Monsters?
He spends most of that, if he's not fighting Ghidorah, Then he goes underground, and they spend the middle half of that movie is them looking for him underground.
I would say
That's right.
That's interesting is that even though they talk about finding him and you see see him on the radar, but you don't
Right.
actually see Godzilla.
Oh, either way, even with with that he still has the most screen time in that movie. But you're right, 14 minutes out of a 2-hour movie. And then Godzilla versus Kong, you said I think 11 minutes. He's barely in the movie, and it's Kong's story. And Godzilla is kind of a force of nature, and that's kind of where I want to begin here. I think there are very valid reasons for limiting Godzilla's screen time. And if I may, probably going to lose people with this, but follow my logic here. Alexis, spare with us. There used to be a thing in pro wrestling where you wouldn't feature Hulk Hogan too much, because if you put him out there too much, he lost his value. There was too much of Hulk Hogan, and people stopped paying to come see him. And that was the point of having a Hulk Hogan, was you had to have this attraction for people to come to the shows. So he was out there in very limited qualities. You would do like vignettes and stuff. Godzilla, similar concept.
Or you go pay to see him every day on the house show circuit.
Right, but the people in Idaho weren't paying to go see him in Boston. So my point being, Godzilla's select runtime in any given feature is so that you don't overexpose the monster. He exists on novelty. If you go back to Godzilla -1, his presence in that movie is extremely impactful. When Godzilla showed up, you knew, as again continuing with the wrestling parlance, business was about to pick up. And if you had used him too much, then the novelty is lost. Then there's less of an impact, and therefore the quality of the movie goes down. With these movies, even though this is Godzilla's world and we're just living in it, Godzilla is less, and this is where I'll get your reaction to this, Robert, and then Alexis. Godzilla is less a character. He has some degree of character traits, but not as much as Kong. He is more a force of nature. This is a thing that exists in this world, and depending on which way the Earth is rotating, it's either going to be a really bad thing or a really good thing. Also, depending on which plot of the movie we're talking about. Godzilla is the one with the character. Godzilla is the one going on the hero's journey. First it's this, if you think about Kong Skull Island, Godzilla versus Kong, and the New Empire, it's the story of this thing that is misunderstood, and then it's figuring out.
Should have been killed by Samuel L. Jackson. Really should have.
And then it's wanting to get home, and now it's wanting to find his people. That's the story that Kong goes on. Godzilla exists in these movies, even though his name is lit up first in the marquee, as more of something Kong has to overcome in various ways. And in this movie in particular, he's not even necessarily overcoming Godzilla. They figured that out in the last movie. Here, it's figuring out how to use Godzilla appropriately. Kong is. Because again, Kong's whole thing, this whole movie rests upon this one kind of premise, which is there's a great evil lurking in the subterranean realm. It's going to come to the Earth and kill everybody. Well, we need the biggest, best weapon that we've got. Well, what weapon is that? It's Godzilla. And only one man can go to China, and that is Richard Nixon. In this case, King Kong. Only one man can go to Godzilla and say, kill. And that's what these movies about. But the question that got asked in our group chat was like, why wouldn't you feature more of Godzilla in these things? Because there's nothing more you can do with Godzilla, in my opinion. He's not really a character. He isn't going on a journey of any kind. He is a thing that exists to destroy when necessary. That is a force of nature. That's like asking, why aren't there more twisters in Twister? Because if you do too much of that, it ultimately loses its effectiveness.
We're gonna hang on.
Go ahead.
90%. There's a pretty decent chance that will be one of our major complaints when talking about the Twister sequel that comes out later this year.
I was gonna say, it's like we all know where that's going.
If you do too much of the thing loses its effectiveness. So you have to keep Godzilla to limited screen time. What do you think, Robert?
You do. The problem is, let's talk about how this is used well. You mentioned -1. Obviously that's the best Godzilla movie in like a dog's age.
Mm-hmm.
So that may be an unfairly high standard, but even if we compare this with Godzilla 2014, that movie builds. Godzilla shows up briefly to scare off one of the Mutos, and then we get a brief shot of him, and then a little bit of like background footage about that Muto flying away. Then we get teases of them fighting in San Francisco, and then finally it's part of the big finale again. It builds. One of the big problems with Godzilla 2014 is that everything between the building involving the giant monsters is kind of weak.
Well, that's been the weakness of the entire MonsterVerse, and this goes on. It's behind the camera and in front of the camera. The audience has no patience for anything that isn't a monster fight, and the movies don't create. Even if we had more patience for it, they don't create compelling enough characters or plots to fill in the gaps between the monster fights. You know,
hang on, but we're getting to that point. But you're willing to go with it for Godzilla 2014 because one, it's such a strong visual movie. Two, it does escalate the whole way through, and everything that happens there is given appropriate weight. It's just we spend a lot of the fact that a good chunk of that is also spent dealing with the fallout from the other monsters other than Godzilla helps it a lot. We're still seeing the monsters do stuff.
Yeah.
It's a fairly well constructed film, all things considered. There's decisions I don't agree with,
and people largely hate it because there's not enough Godzilla in it, which is
people are stupid.
It's a giant ongoing problem with this franchise. I'm not entirely sure what way to do it that reconciles appropriate, proper, competent craft with everyone's ADD. And fucking impatience with anything that isn't a monster hitting something.
Just remind them it could be worse. It could, at least we have a reason for why he's not on camera and we understand what he's doing when he's not on camera, as opposed to the 98 Godzilla where we have no idea how the hell they expect us to believe he's hiding in one of the buildings.
That movie. So many reasons. So
I'm sorry. When in doubt, you just insult Roland Emmerich.
That just seems mean.
I want to stick with the topic, but my father and I got into an argument about the Matthew Broderick Godzilla film over Easter. Keep going.
Let
Robert.
me guess. He likes it.
I said something to the effect of, "Oh, that one's not really a Godzilla movie. It's a giant gecko running around New York City."
Correct.
And my father goes, "What gecko? It was Godzilla." And
No,
there's
it's
an
not.
hour of this back and forth before I finally put my head through the wall.
I was going to say,
not Godzilla.
Yeah, no, it's not Godzilla because Toho actually legally purchased the rights to that version of Godzilla.
I understand that. Try talking to my 70-plus-year-old dad. Okay, who also couldn't understand how Dune worked. Keep going, Robert.
The problem with less Godzilla is not that, it's okay to have not as much Godzilla. You can't have a movie. Shouldn't say can't. It's really hard to make a movie that's nothing but action.
Yeah.
Even movies that are majority action have to be paced out properly so that you have beats in between it. So even something like Fury Road, which is a lot of action, has character beats.
So I rewatched for Thursday's review Run Lola Run, which, as you might suspect, is a lot of Lola running. But we take time out. Yeah, great movie. But we take time out to do other things in that movie, to your point.
Well, time loops also make that easier, but
sure.
See, I was thinking about action movies like Predator or Alien or The Terminator. It's
hang on.
Those.
You touched on something there I'm going to get to in a minute.
So get there.
I'm shutting up.
No, by the time we get to King of the Monsters, where things fall apart because you don't have anything interesting to do outside of the monsters. And this is the great fault of most of these. What the other stuff has to matter. And nobody cares about your nefarious organization trying to release King Ghidorah, much less about Millie Bobby Brown rigging up Wrigley Field. And not Wrigley Field, that's in Chicago. Whatever it is in Boston. To broadcast this bizarre call that will get all the terrible monsters to show up.
Fenway
Park, thank you. You're not giving us stuff that we care about in between what's going on. This gets worse in Godzilla versus Kong, mind you.
Yeah. That's
where, hey, watch these bumbling idiots try to infiltrate a government organization where they're creating Mecha Godzilla.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think that's the first time it's really noticeable because 2014 is this really oddball picture that people struggle with. But let's throw that in the trash because the next one that has Godzilla in it is him running a gauntlet of monsters, which
allegedly,
on the half of the movie people, frustrates people. The other half of the people love because all everyone wanted to see was Godzilla punch different monsters, which they more or less got in King of the Monsters. When we get to Godzilla versus Kong, that's really the first time, the production staff of this movie really just looked at the audience and said, look, pal, I know you're here for Godzilla, but Godzilla's not the star of this thing. King Kong is. And when King Kong's not on screen, we have to do something with the humans or there's no connective tissue. And I think people, to the point that I'm trying to get at with this whole bit, really struggle with that. And I don't know how to, that's why I said before, I don't know how you reconcile, I'll let Alexis jump in on this topic. I don't know how you reconcile people's need to watch gonzo monster destruction with making a competent movie, because I'm not entirely sure you can do both. And which master do you want to serve? Satisfying the toddlers or making an appropriate film like an adult? Alexis.
What I was about to say, though, is that, again, we talk about people saying you need more of your title character. But as I was mentioning to Robert, I think more about classic adventure films where the focus is on the creature. Again, Terminator, Alien, Predator. Those three are not in the movie as much as you think.
They're not. But the other thing, so I'm going to extrapolate what you're saying about that so that people understand it, and maybe you don't even realize you said it. Then we need to kind of shift away from action structure, because those aren't really action movies. Those are slasher movies. And maybe that's what people need to see. Because when I think about like Halloween, for example, not a lot of Michael Myers in that one either. But Michael Myers is there and people love the Halloween movies despite the fact that 2/3 of that movie is stupid girls. If you're serious,
wait, you're seriously not calling The Predator an action movie?
No, because it's a slasher movie.
Hang on. It is
the presence of machine guns doesn't make something action. There is a monster killing people in the woods.
Functionally, functionally, if you replace, structurally, Predator is structured like a slasher movie. Instead of babysitting in the beginning or, going to high school with teenage girls and cheerleaders, it's roided up monsters blowing up a South American drug cartel's base to establish who these characters are. And then they try to get out, but now the monster's after them. Okay, we did cheerleading practice. Now we're going to go home, but the serial killer's after us. It's structurally the same, very different execution. And I mean, ditto Terminator. The first Terminator is a slasher movie, right down to the final girl. And the monster that you think is dead once and then comes back after being blown up.
So I think, to sort of end this bit and we can move on to the proper craft review, I think if people want to see more Godzilla in their Godzilla movie, I think maybe in terms of writing and structuring your plot, they really do need to make it more of a horror movie. But then that casts Godzilla back in the role of villain, which they have long abandoned. The minute What's His Nuts says let them fight in Godzilla 2014, that was the end of that. We have decided this character is the hero of this picture, not the villain, and now you can't put that genie back in the bottle. You'd have to abandon the MonsterVerse and start all over again.
Which you want to see the worst thing.
So you want to see Godzilla as the bad guy, go see Godzilla -1, which you need to do anyway because that movie is awesome.
Right, but that movie effectively uses Godzilla that way, and nobody complains about Godzilla's lack of screen time.
Well, because you don't see Godzilla -1 just to see Godzilla Rampage. You see it to see a classic Godzilla movie. And the best Godzilla movies do have something that connects things together. I mean, if you want to know the biggest problem with these movies, is that the people writing them clearly don't care about most of it, or they're told not to care. So what do we have in Godzilla? Hang on.
The MonsterVerse learned the wrong lessons from Marvel and thought that the key to attraction was spectacle, without understanding that is not what has ever made Godzilla or King Kong or any of the monster movies effective. What makes what makes the monster movies effective in many ways is the fact that they ultimately scare the shit out of people. When you look at you did an entire Everyone Loves a Bad Guy on like Universal monster characters and whatnot, and your level of fear may vary, but ultimately that's what they were dealing with. There's a giant, ugly, gross monster thing out in the world, and it's hurting people, it's killing people, and it might come for you next, and nobody is safe. The existential threat of Godzilla as like a metaphor for the bomb and all of that is that the end of the world is out there. We're very close to it, and it could happen at any time. The idea of like there's something. We've always had sort of a connection, affection, fear, paranoia about what lies in the deep, whether it's in the deep ocean or the deep jungle. And for the deep ocean, we've got things like Krakens and Cthulhu and Jaws. For the jungle, we've got King Kong. That, someday we might go too deep into the woods and unearth this giant ape that, steals blonde women and kills everybody. These things operate on fear. You take the fear out, and all that's left is the spectacle, and the spectacle only works as far as novelty extends itself. And when the novelty dissipates, so does the interest. Now, I figured that out. You already know that. The people listening to this podcast went, what did he just say? And the people making these movies don't know how English words work. So...
Yeah, just to the point, like Godzilla versus Kong has nothing for the humans to do.
Yeah.
Again, they bumble around, they break into a facility, it's nothing. It's so much nothing. And they're terrible characters. This is the other big thing about this. If you want these movies to work, they have to be characters that don't suck.
Yeah. I'm going to put you on pause there. Alexis, why don't you go ahead and get into your... I don't think we need to talk anymore about the use of Godzilla in this movie. We've covered it. So what else about this movie did you like, dislike, whatever?
Like I said, to me, this is a movie that you just turn your brain off and enjoy the action. The humans the humans in the dialogue purely exist to move plot along and explain any exposition that we as the audience probably couldn't figure out through just the background and Godzilla and King Kong grunting and fighting and whatever. So, and yeah, a lot of times it's just like, okay, whatever, don't care. Hell yeah, the whole backstory about the ice kaiju was like, yeah, whatever. It's like he's got Elsa from Frozen as a dinosaur. Good to know. Okay, moving along.
Okay.
But to me, that's what these movies have always been. And I give credit that I feel that the director and the producers and everything of this franchise know that. They know that people are coming here to see the Monster Maul and Brawl. They are coming to watch action, and they know we do not give a shit about whether or not little deaf Asian girl from Skull Island is going to stay with these people who are apparently able to control gravity and communicate telepathically. Because why not? It's like, guess what? We don't care, okay? We really don't. We don't care if this actress is going to be in the future movie or not. We just want to see the kaiju fight. Good enough for me. I had fun. Again, I was cheering on a lot of the fights. I thought that they were really well done. I thought the direction was really good on them. What was it? The scene where they come up in Rio de Janeiro and the camera does, I don't even think it's like a 360 because I think it keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it spins around with the wave that freezes, like that is one of the coolest things I think I've ever seen in film. Yeah. That was awesome. I basically just sat back, said, I had fun. I'm not going to actively look to watch this again, but if it's on TV or if I just want some fun action in the background, I'll put it on. Next movie better have fucking Space Godzilla.
I saw it twice. I love this movie. This has been my favorite movie of the year, just on a pure enjoyment level so far. It's not perfect. No movie is. And it's less perfect than some of the other stuff we've seen this year. That being said, here's my good, bad, and ugly to keep this flowing and fast. I think the CGI was better rendered in this movie than in the previous ones. I think the fights look sharper. I enjoy the color paletting in some of these areas, which...
hang on, to your point there, I will absolutely give you the coloring. much
Yeah.
better here than.
Oh,
lot
this
of
is
the
a
other ones.
gorgeous, gorgeous
Yeah.
movie.
This is a visual feast for the eyes, and they kept that pretty consistent through the whole thing. There's imagery at work here. Some of it you see in the trailer, some of it you saw it in the movies. You know, them Godzilla and King Kong in the Batman and Robin-esque run at the camera looked pretty cool when they showed up in Subterranea. That actual fight, the initial Avengers Assemble moment where the four characters hit each other look good. My favorite parts of this are the parts where there's no humans, and I mean that sincerely. I know that sounds like I'm making a crack, but
No, you're
No.
not wrong.
but I mean, I said that with the last one, and Robert and I got into a screaming match about it. So let's go for round 2, pal. Everything that happens between Godzilla and the villain, Godzilla and we're calling him Dewey, and Godzilla and
Do you mean Kong?
I do. I stopped myself after the third time I said it.
You're so obsessed with getting more Godzilla in the movie that in your mind you're replacing Kong with Godzilla.
I'm about to replace you with it. Anyway, take 2. King Kong. Every time you see King Kong talking with Dewey, the interactions between, I loved the bit with the villain, like the way they either mocapped or CGI'd the villain, kind of looking at doing this with his tooth and then going, it was like. They talk about with like Planet of the Apes, like Andy Serkis actually like studied ape movement and stuff that.
Darn right he
there's
did, because Andy Serkis is awesome.
Yeah, there's very specific things that apes do in movement that you see with the villain here. And you made the Jungle Book crack before, but there was a lot of that too. So there was a lot of attention to detail in the way these characters interacted. And like I said that with Godzilla versus Kong, that my favorite bits were when they were fighting, but not because they were punching each other, but because of the way they did the CGI emoting with their faces. And you fought me on that, and I'm doubling down on it now, because the best stuff in this movie is every time the different monsters interact with each other. Body movements, the facial movements, the emoting, all of that. Go ahead.
In this instance, it's more true than it was for the other one.
Okay, good. Glad we see it that way.
Look, Godzilla versus Kong is kind of a visual mess in places, and just not a. My issue with Godzilla versus Kong, if y'all are interested, go back and listen to our review. Mark and I have a discussion around it.
Discussion.
We do. It's a discussion.
This close to a screaming match.
Did you guys catch the scene that was a tribute to Godzilla -1?
Hang on a second. I'm not getting into that right now. I'm going to keep talking about stuff I saw in the movie. So that's all the good stuff. I think the plot is pretty straightforward. I mean, like, raise your hand if you've heard this one before. There's an evil empire. It's been tossed into some sort of prison realm. It gets out, and the plot of the movie is we have to stop them from taking over the world. I've seen that a bunch. You have to kind of create a strong skeletal system to hang a lot of this nonsense on, and a very simple, straightforward, there's an evil army and an evil general that wants to take over the world is as good as any. I have no problem with that. Setting up sort of a ticking time bomb of sorts to where they have, we have to stop the evil army from going through the portal into the Earth realm, and Godzilla is spending the entire movie gearing up for this. Like, Godzilla knows this army is coming at some point, so it's running around like Pac-Man, like eating ghosts and pellets and shit to gear up for this thing. So so that he can hit him one time and knock him out. Okay, that all works for me. That again, we don't want to overcomplicate this. It's a fucking monsters punching each other movie. Let's not get silly. So those are all strong things. I guess I don't want to join in the bandwagon of bashing on the humans, because none of the characters bother me that much. They bother you guys. They don't bother me. Like, the Doctor doesn't bother me. She's not a shrill bitch. She's sympathetic.
Hang on. The Doctor's fine.
I know. And I'm not saying you guys didn't like. I'm not saying that you said that.
I'm agreeing with you on her. She's fine.
But look, these are all also classic movie tropes, maybe a little too tropish if we're going to be super critical about it. The Doctor,
these are Harlequin characters. They're not actually.
The Doctor is a busy businesswoman who don't need no man. The rogue, Trapper is the dashing rogue who does fun things like puts tooths in apes and flies ships and flies a power glove around. And then you have the comic relief in Tyree Henry. And he's not
funny.
If he bothers you, he bothers you. And if he's not funny to you, he's not funny to you. I'm not going to fight
Didn't
you.
enjoy him in Godzilla versus Kong either.
I know. But he
fact-
doesn't bother me in this. And the point being is that what I was trying to get to is they did a really good job. I want to pay them a compliment. None of these characters are so over the top or so far ridiculous that it took away from my enjoyment of the movie. Everyone kind of stays, if anything, everyone's subdued. They toned him down a lot since the last movie. I don't remember if he's in King of the Monsters or not. But
I don't think so.
But he is definitely in GVK, and he is toned down a lot. They got rid of, for lack of a better phrase, and I want to get this over so Alexis can get her word in, they turned down a lot of the minstrel routine they had him doing in that first movie. Like it's very much gone here, and he is way turned down.
Okay, let me give you another point of comparison here.
Mm-hmm.
In Godzilla versus Kong, it felt very much like they wanted to cast like
Anthony Edwards.
You mean Anthony Anderson?
Yeah, Anthony Anderson. Sorry,
Anthony Edwards is a very different person.
yes. Keep going.
He's a very skinny, tall white man.
Yes, Robert.
But it felt like they wanted to cast Anthony Anderson circa the first Transformers movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
They very much wanted a big, broad minstrel character, and they got this instead. And I think they heard enough complaining about that. They were like, how about just be normal? Be a little gay. How about that? Can we do it? Instead of being like really over the top, obnoxiously black, how about just a little gay? And they were like, all right, a little gay works. So that's fine. And actually he has a lot of fun chemistry with Dan Stevens. The girl is the girl.
You and I watched different movies, man.
Yeah, the girl is the girl. She's probably the weakest character in this thing, and I don't know how to fix it. She just is what she is. Overall, if anything that didn't work, I think for me for this movie,
it's too long.
No, I don't know if it's
really
too long.
drags.
I would tell you maybe it needs to be paced a little bit faster. And maybe that's an editing thing. Maybe it's a length of film thing. I don't know. Alexis,
this is not okay. Well, let me help you out here.
Yeah.
This is not a 2-hour story. We've had this conversation before.
No, they probably could have done an hour and 45 and been okay.
This is almost like a short film story. The story is that limited. It's just how do we stretch out the spectacle is kind of what they're dealing with.
No, what I was trying to say is that none of the characters I would call annoying.
Yeah.
They're more than anything, they're just kind of forgettable. You know, there was no one on screen that made me go, "Oh my God, get this character off camera. What the hell were you thinking?" And so
I was really waiting for Trapper to bite the dust. That guy.
Oh no, I knew he was going to stick around.
Oh, I knew he wasn't going to die, but I was really hoping.
I think to your point,
you can't trust anyone who eats banana chips. And who's a lot of what he does is just preachy crap.
You just really don't like anyone who lets a mosquito take their blood.
Anywho,
anyone who then goes, she needs it more than me, followed by a lecture on the value of indigenous peoples. Yeah, I can do without that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't even think it registered with the audience, and the filmmakers thought maybe throw something in here with a modicum of intelligence. I'm not going to fault them for that.
To the extent that qualifies as intelligence is a damning indictment on the people who penned this.
Correct. What I was going to say is, so we can move this on, to Alexis's point, none of the characters really stand out. I think they toned everybody down because they've heard the complaining and went, oof. If everybody is too broad, if everybody is too shrill, people are going to hate this, and we're going to get a lot of people screaming the human characters. They might have dialed it back too much. You know what I mean? Like these might be too subtle. These might be too plain. And like we kind of need to, like, they kind of drenched all the juice from a lot of these characters to where like you get a little like I'm going to kiss you on the mouth line or something like that. And like, it's for me at least, it was kind of funny. But I think for a lot of the audience, they might have kind of, if you're going to make us sit with these human characters for as long as they did, maybe give us a little bit more than that. Robert, go ahead and do your craft review.
So in Godzilla versus Kong, it was, hey, we're going to spend a lot of time with these characters because that's kind of how this works, the way you have to apportion the movie and budgeting and all that nonsense. So here's clowns. Because they're clowns in that one.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone kind of went, boy, these clowns suck. And typical of, producers, Boy, people hate clowns. Give them planks of wood.
Yeah. Again,
Well,
we may have overcorrected.
Well, they figured out it's like, well, people don't really want to watch the human characters. They want to watch the monsters. So are we saying that there needs to be more of a balance between the human characters and the monsters? Because frankly, I think people are going to respond more positively to the planks of wood so we can focus on the monsters.
There's an answer to this, and it's a very simple answer. It's just hard to do, especially when most of Hollywood is incompetent. You have to write better. You have to write more richer, more fully developed characters, and you have to give what they're doing stakes in the film. Both of which are absent in this, and that's probably my. If now that I've said that out loud, I was really struggling to figure out like, well, what is there critically about this movie I didn't like or that doesn't work? And it's what it's the characterizations themselves are too drab, and what they give them to do doesn't matter. It's literally if you cut out all the monster stuff, this is 45 minutes to an hour of we have to wake up Mothra, and we need the girl to do it because she's the key to everything. Hi, critical drinker. So,
yeah, that's why again. Part of what made 2014 work to those of us who actually are capable of thinking about some of this stuff instead of just throwing hissy fits. Aaron Taylor Johnson trying to get back to his family while also trying to be responsible in his role and helping, not let the world die makes sense. And because these are the characters we're following, we then get a little bit of his wife and their kid in San Francisco, of course, because they're always going to be wherever the monsters go. That's how these things work. And we all just go along with that. But that all tracks. I maintain the following. People checked out of the human interest side of Godzilla 2014 because they killed Bryan Cranston for no good reason.
Yeah. It was also a bait and switch. He was in a big part of the marketing, and they killed him in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Spoilers. And everyone went up, and everyone started ripping the seats and throwing them at the screen.
Yeah,
agreed.
That's honestly the biggest problem with that. If you fix that problem one way or the other, the reaction to it is not as strong. And I think people feel better about it by the end of it.
Yeah.
But here, like you said, it's like, oh, we're worried about what's going on in the Hollow Earth. Why? Well, we kind of like Kong, right? Yeah, but he's down there. Who cares? But Kong, be sympathetic to the monkey. And you kind of, there's an assumption of some kind of sympathetic bond there that maybe isn't present for the audience. And that ruins a lot of the motivation, to be quite honest. If you don't like Kong, more importantly, if you don't care about these characters liking Kong, none of this works. Yeah. None of the setup actually matters. So weak. You need to, like Mark said, you need to write better characters. Straight up. It's a simple fix. It's not an easy fix.
I would say the best written character in all of these movies, in the past two movies, has been King Kong.
Probably.
Agreed.
I'd probably go with that. And the rest of this, this is a badly written movie. Just straight up. There's no two ways around that. Allegedly, the monkeys are trapped underground by Godzilla thousands of years ago. And somehow, they can't get out. Why? How?
Yeah.
Kong encounters a bunch of these apes.
Right.
A day's walk for the monkeys away from where, what's stopping any of them from leaving?
Yeah, I had a problem with that too.
One of them walks over, wrecks the Monarch outpost, which is about 2 minutes away from one of the portals.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, they don't really explain why they can't leave. We're going to keep calling it Mordor. They don't explain why they can't leave Mordor, except that they do leave Mordor. And when they wanted to, they just did that. It's like they were just kind of hanging out in Mordor, and then Kong shows up, and they're like, well, now that he's here, we can leave. What?
Yeah, you have one of the monkeys saying, one does not simply walk out of Mordor. Oh, wait, yes, we do.
You go follow the sign that says exit. That's what you do. Yeah, their reasoning with that part of it made no sense at all.
If there was a reason explained in the movie, somebody please tell us, because clearly all three of us missed it.
I saw it twice. It was not there. There was no rational explanation for why they were hanging out in the.
All they say is Godzilla trapped them down there.
Except that they leave immediately, and there's nothing that so for example, so people understand what it is we're saying. They are in a place, and it's said they can't get out of this place, but then something happens and they do get out. You never see what that something is. By contrast, Zod's floating around in the LP in space, and Superman sets off the nuclear bomb. The radiation goes out into space, disrupts the LP, and Zod gets out and lands on Earth. We saw all that happen. We know how Zod got to Earth. We don't know how or why the monkeys left Mordor and or how they were trapped in there in the first place.
Well, we don't know how they were trapped. We don't know why they stayed. Because again, there's a bunch of them that Kong encounters by his home.
Yeah, presumably
that's where he finds a bunch. He's not that far.
Presumably that was a trap that he was.
Well, I would assume they were hunting because I don't know if you noticed or not. There was no fucking food in the lava pit they were living in.
Okay, so again, Scar has ruined the Pride Lands. We get this.
How many more movies are we going to pull in here? Honestly?
I don't know, but that seems to be an ongoing joke with this podcast.
There's just nothing. Look, man, I was watching this thing and I was so bored and so disinterested that I started making all these extra connections to keep myself awake.
But there was another movie that we did. We had a similar thing going on. Oh, it was Aquaman, where it was like how many we kept calling Lord of the Rings. There was another movie.
Well, that one very deliberately apes Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
There was another movie that we saw we reviewed recently where it was like, how many fucking other movies is this?
I don't know.
Keep going, Robert.
So again, it's badly written. A couple of the monster Here's my problem with one of these things. You set up an expectation for Godzilla getting supercharged, and then that never pays off. Like you change his character design, you give him a new color palette.
What do you mean it doesn't pay off? He fires the goddamn thing at the monkey, and the monkey dodges it.
Yeah, but he could have done that anyway.
You're basically saying, what's the point of bringing out the BFG if it's not actually going to be used to take out the bad guy?
Or if you're not gonna, or if you shoot the BFG and it looks like every other M16.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll give you that.
You're right. You're right. When he launched the pink laser at the, I love how we're all like deconstructing this. People are just like, oh god, like the Godzilla nerds are like falling over themselves right now. But yeah, so Godzilla shoots his feminist laser gun, and it should have blown Egypt or wherever they were.
And Margot Robbie comes out. Yes.
Yeah. What it should have.
I have to break out the meme.
It should have caused a giant nuclear explosion is what it should have done. There should have been stakes to him launching it. That's what you're saying.
That or...
You're comparing it to like that scene in King of the Monsters when we actually get the red spiral ray of death and it looks different than his usual.
Well, I was thinking of Godzilla -1 again. Yeah. When Godzilla launches his atomic breath at Tokyo and Tokyo goes up in smoke.
Well, again, here's what should have happened. Now, they couldn't do this for obvious reasons. But what should have happened is Scar shows up with the horde, with like the army of orcs at his back. And Godzilla, now supercharged, like drops in the middle of them and blows up. Now, I don't mean like dies. I mean like one of those big radiation blasts out of himself. Kills the entire army. So
So basically you wanted to see Godzilla pull the Superman solar bomb move.
Something like that. So now there's no army, and it's just Scar and his kaiju against Kong and his kaiju.
Yeah, that would have produced a no fuck moment. That would have been nice seeing the.
Well, it would have paid off supercharging Godzilla. If you supercharge Godzilla, he has to do something other than he normally does.
Well, again, it also would have given stakes to the idea of this this army of doom is currently marching on Minas Tirith. And then suddenly he doesn't have the army anymore. Now what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, but you can't do that because if Godzilla kills all the monkeys, then Kong doesn't have his found family.
Yeah.
Because Godzilla was never supposed to be in this movie.
So the way to fix that is there's two sets of monkeys, one slavers, one enslaved, and we kill the slavers, and then he goes back and lives happily ever after with the slave monkeys.
Kill the orcs, save the elves.
Right.
Something like, again, I'm not saying there's not ways to get around it. I'm saying... Mm-hmm. Again, you put a lot of effort into saying that Godzilla's supercharged, and then he doesn't do anything that he doesn't otherwise do. He's just you bought a new skin.
What else? What else?
The fights are okay. The one in the Hollow Earth, I don't like the 0G thing. I've never really. There's almost no movies that make good use of that as a gimmick. This is no exception. When they fight across Rio, it's fine. The stuff with Godzilla and Kong in the pyramids of Egypt is, it's kind of whatever.
I was laughing only because Godzilla's such a moron.
See, again, I love the fight in Egypt. I love so much where Kong's just like, oh my God, will you listen to me?
By the same token, Godzilla's like, oh my God, we already settled this. You're not supposed to be here. It's like, no. I'm not here to invade your territory. I'm here for a reason. And Godzilla's like, I don't fucking. Like he turns into Tommy Lee. I don't care.
Look, man, this is the property line.
Right.
You want to talk to me? Talk from the other side of the property line. Quit crossing my fence.
Yeah.
And Kong's like, but I crossed the fence to talk to you. And this isn't complicated. Stand over there.
Yeah. And again, Godzilla suplexes King Kong.
Godzilla is every moron I've ever spoken to. Where it's like I need you to listen to reason. No, I'm going to overtalk you and scream at you and tell you you're wrong. Yes, but I actually have facts on my side. Fuck your facts. That was the whole conversation between him and Kong.
Yeah, until Mothra shows up and breaks up the fight, and even Godzilla's like, oh, okay, I got you.
Leave it to a nagging wife to stop two boys from fighting.
Now someone has to.
To say nothing of like, hey, by the way, Mothra's going to be here randomly at the end.
Right.
And then Mothra shows up and stops them from fighting. And then, hey, I saved the humans. And then I'm going to do nothing else. I'm down here in the Hollow Earth now, but, Mothra.
She was using the Caterpie string shot to attach the other gorillas to the rocks. To keep
Mothra going Spider-Man on them was fine.
So
that was not Spider-Man. That was Caterpie.
No, Mothra has a Caterpie form.
One quick thing about Mothra that I didn't get. And I'll take a 10-word explanation on it. We already had Mothra in King of the Monsters. Mothra exists. And Mothra, I think, was in one of the Monarch cages. They wrote in this thing for the kid to do, which I know why it's there. They need something for the kid to do to make her special so she can be the key to everything.
Because every girl has to be special.
Right.
Especially if she's a teenager.
Sure, absolutely. That's the rule. But my thing is just like, but you already have one Mothra. Just go get that one.
Well,
like, why did we need new Mothra?
Okay, that Mothra died in King of the Monsters, if you'll recall.
Did it? No, I don't recall. Yeah. So thank you for reminding me.
Rodan killed her, and with her final breaths, she said, "Oh, hey, look, I have a scorpion sting." Shoink.
Oh, that's right. Okay, moving on.
Well, the answer to your question about wasn't there already a Mothra? There's more Mothras.
No, that I'm fine with. I didn't know the first Mothra died.
Yeah, first Mothra died. 2.0. There's a long history in the Godzilla franchise. The first time we meet Mothra, Godzilla kills her. Okay. But her offspring, which are larval form, are able to beat Godzilla because they just web him up.
Cool. What other craft issues do you have, if any? Because if not, we're going to move on to the money.
Just once again, we've got a movie that's half pregnant. I am dying for one of these things to just eschew conventional movie wisdom. We're not here to see the humans, right? Find a way to tell this story that is, and look, they've proved you can do this. It's just hard. The Planet of the Apes, the new chronology of Planet of the Apes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just created characters that are not humans for the most part, and we spend most of our time with them. And it works. And again, it's just hard because those are good movies with a lot of care and effort put into them.
That's what I gotta say. I don't want to see any more of these movies. I feel like Kong's arc came to its natural conclusion. Kong found his family. That's it. That's what these movies have been about when you go back and you deconstruct them and you kind of trace what the through line is, because they're not about Godzilla. Godzilla's the weather. Godzilla's an earthquake.
I said, I argue if we do get one more, I want Space Godzilla. This was my only complaint.
That's what Ghidorah it was.
No, Space Godzilla is another character.
Okay, again, not a character. We did see, however, a character go through his character arc, which is, he found his home. This whole story they've been telling with King Kong is we have, get him back to his family, get him back, to find other apes, and which he did by the end of this movie. And I don't need to see any more of this. So, like, my frustration is if this thing makes money, which I want. It's like, on the one hand, I want it to make a lot of money. We'll talk about that in 30 seconds or so. On the other hand, there's no more story left to tell with King Kong. He made it home. He found his people. We're done now. There's no more story to tell.
But I mean, this was the same problem that a lot of us had with. I'm going to set Alien versus Predator aside as its own set of problems. But that movie has a sequel, which, God help me, I've seen.
Oh, you poor thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, Alien versus Requiem is great.
Here's the thing about Requiem, and I mean this with all sincerity. If we had not followed too many of the humans, if that had just been like scatter shots of us seeing the people as the xenomorphs take over and the Predator shows up and is trying to kill, like, there's a better movie in there that, I mean this sincerely, that is not messing with the human characters, that is driven by suspense and spectacle about different situations as that town goes to hell.
Yeah.
But we can't do that because we got to follow the humans, and we can't have a really long stretch of this movie that is Kong's lonely wanderings through Hollow Earth. We've got to have a Volkswagen commercial where I'm not even kidding about that. That scene is just a car commercial.
All right.
Again, this movie wants to be a Michael Bay movie very, very badly in all the worst ways.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's one of those things where it's like it desperately wants to be a Michael Bay movie, but it's ashamed and it knows the reaction it's going to get, but that's what it wants.
Hey, at least they were smart enough not to set it at sunset.
Very good.
Or other big thing, big positive. At least they didn't set it at night in the rain for some of these fights.
All right. Why did you say that name? All righty. And with that, by the way, my son's, we haven't done it yet, but my son wants to do another stitch on TikTok that says Batman versus Superman is really about just two orphans fighting in the rain.
I mean, he's not wrong.
And with that said, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
All right, let me move this up before Alexis yells at me. All right.
Oof. Sorry. I looked at how much Ghostbusters fell and just had to oof.
That is an oof.
Yeah. As of March 31st, 2024, Godzilla times Kong, the New Empire, has grossed 80 million in the US and Canada and 114 million in other territories for a worldwide total of 194 million. Woo! In the US and Canada, Godzilla... This is
not worth celebrating.
You're not worth celebrating. Godzilla times
I'm aware of that.
Was initially...
I don't disagree.
It was projected to gross 50 to 55 million from almost 4,000 theaters in its opening weekend, as well as an additional 80 to 90 million from 63 international territories, including China, which is the only one that matters. After making 37 million on its first day, including 10 million from Thursday previews, the best ever total for a MonsterVerse movie, estimates were raised to 75 million domestic weekend and went on to debut 80 million, topping the box office and becoming the second best opening weekend of the series and the fifth best Easter weekend of all time. Alrighty. So it was the number one movie of the weekend. It knocked Ghostbusters from 1 to 2. And yes, Robert, now you may oof. Ghostbusters fell 65.4% in its second week.
Big drop there.
Yeah,
big oof.
Big trip and fall down the stairs. That's gonna cut your chin and knock a tooth out.
Hey, everybody who wanted to see it happened to see it, and it was not worth seeing a second time. You made a flop. Good for you.
They did not make an event picture, and the lesson, children, is just because you shoved 80-year-old men into their Ghostbusters cosplay doesn't make it an event. Fuck.
Correct.
Dude. All right. Speaking of which, Dune Part 2, a certified actual hit in its fifth week, fell from 2 to 3. Kung Fu Panda 4 in its fourth week fell from 3 to 4. Immaculate fell from 4 to 5. Yes, why? I know that movie. I know what that movie's about now and who's in it, and that's why. That's why, Robert. That's why.
I would say, Robert, we talked about this last week. Remember asking whether or not Sydney Sweeney can act or whether people just love her tracts of land.
Now, I'm aware. I really wish Mark would not try to make everything weird.
I haven't made anything weird this entire podcast until right now. Let me be me and you be you. Speaking of Robert being Robert, Arthur the King fell from 5 to 6 in its third week.
That is not a good segue, sir.
Late Night with the Devil, which Robert and Alexis did a fine job reviewing. A podcast that didn't make me want to drive into oncoming traffic. Well done, children. That fell from 6 to 7.
Only a 23% drop is actually really strong for that.
Like 5 people saw it. To Toulouse Square debuted at 8. Crew at number 9. And Imaginary, which no one seems to give a shit about, fell from 7 to 10.
It's a terrible generic horror movie that just no one cares about.
There's a reason we're not reviewing it.
And that's correct.
That's one of them. Other debuts this weekend were In the Land of Saints and Sinners, number 11. The Goat Life, number 15. Asphalt City, the sequel to Asteroid City.
It is not, for the record. Why did you purr after that one?
Because sometimes I purr when things are obnoxiously funny, and sometimes I purr because I'm a pervert. You never know what my purr means, sir. My purr doesn't mean just one thing. Also,
no, it kind of just means the one thing.
Also, it's kind of a critic reference because he did that once too. He said something and it was like kind of funny, maybe sexual, and he went, "Arr," if you'll remember. Remember the critic?
I do.
I
remember that.
I have the whole series on my computer. It's one of my favorite shows.
And mine too. And he purrs at least once on that show.
Because you aspire to be John Lovitz, and you never will.
I am John Lovitz.
You need to go kick the crap out of Andy Dick then.
Speaking of Andy's dick, A Fragile Flower debuted at number 25. Wicked Little Letters, number 26. Wonka's still in the top 30. La Chimera is number 30, and The Samurai 38. Jesus Christ. Lousy Carter 45. Sometimes I feel like these are just made up.
I was gonna say, raise your hand if you've heard of at least 50% of these.
On the Adamant at number 49, and that was The Weekend. That was all right. Worldwide on the dime, baby. The number 1 movie in the world is currently Dune Part 2 with 627 million. Kung Fu Panda coming in at a lovely number 2 with 346, and making its debut in the top 3, which tells you the state of the top 10.
Once again, we're looking. Every Hollywood executive is pleading with everyone not to look at the total box office take from this year when it's all said and done.
Yeah,
195 people jump out of windows.
195 million gets you a third place slot in April of the year of our Lord 2024.
Yep.
Look, it's still early, okay? Madam Web is still in the top 10. There is plenty of room for change.
We're a third of the way through the year. This is weak.
I just, I miss the salad days of 2019. Not a single movie that didn't make $1 billion in the top 10. Those were the days.
Top 5. I think there were top 10 movies from 2019 that didn't make $1 billion.
Every single movie in the year of our Lord 2019 made $1 billion in the top 10. Go look.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Bob, I have a tattoo on my arm. Bob Marley, One Love, debut number 4 at 175. The Beekeeper, goddamn pal, like a third week of January, still sticking strong in April of 2024.
This is I said that before. This is going to be your Quantumania this year. This one? You're like, why is this still here? Why is the Beekeeper still here?
Ghostbusters is at number 6 at 108 million.
Ooh.
Yeah, not good.
Didn't that thing have like a $200 million? It had $100 million budget, right?
Yeah, I believe
so
it was a fairly reasonable budget. Mean Girls from February still hanging on at 104 million, and not even cracked 100 million, and currently PVOD because Sony gave the fuck up. Is Madam Web?
Girls
is Madam Web, and even worse than that is Argyle, which is now available to watch on Apple TV.
Oh, poor Argyle.
And then at number 10 is Exuma. I don't think there's anything worth making fun of at this point.
I hate to say it. Every time I say Imaginary, I actually get just a tiny bit panicked because in my head, I associate it with that new John Krasinski movie that's coming out. I want to see that, and I really hope it's good. So when I see that, I'm like, what do you mean it's... Oh, it's not If. Never mind. You know what I mean?
I know it's not on our...
I'm sure I liked that one better when it was Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, but...
Yeah. I
Oh,
didn't
I
put
love
on.
that show.
I didn't put If on the schedule this year for a variety of reasons, and I want to say it's because it's coming at the same time as something else I did want to review, or I needed a free week to do Sons of Anarchy or something. And anyway, I don't know if I would have changed my mind had I gotten a closer look at what the movie was, but at this point, it's one of those where I'm just not interested. I think one of my kids said something about maybe wanting to see it, but I don't know. I'm nonplussed about the whole thing.
Even just from the trailers, I get the distinct impression that their first choice for that male lead was Hugh Jackman, not Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. All right. So that is worldwide. I think so. This weekend coming up is Monkey Man and WrestleMania. Just throw it out there. Monkey Man is the Dev Patel action movie, all Indian cast. I think it is.
Isn't that also his directorial debut?
Yeah.
Probably.
So I have a sneaking suspicion Godzilla versus Kong repeats in its second week, but then Civil War comes out. I think Civil War wins its weekend.
I'm not sure about that one.
Here's the thing. I don't know how many more people are interested in seeing Godzilla versus Kong by the third week of this. Here's what I'm telling you.
True.
That's more of a state of the theater than it is this quality of the film. I
don't know the reach that Civil War has. Like, in a handful of circles, you and I have heard it have degrees of buzz, but we've also got a mountain of evidence suggesting that random bits of online buzz do not equate to box office success.
I'm actually wondering if like the political, like the everyday folks, political far left, and the everyday folks, political far right, are keying into this movie at all, and this is going to become like the subject of another culture war. Because that's about the only way I think it does make money, is my point. But yeah, I mean, the critical buzz on the movie is good,
It's fine enough, and the fact that the directors kind of come out and said, my goal was to point out how stupid both sides are. I mean, if that's actually how the movie plays, I'll stand up and cheer.
I will. Here's what I'll tell you. I think that's probably going to be one. I have faith in the people that made this movie, but what I'm counting on is that like the political right is going to take a hold of this movie and make it a cause célèbre and kind of have a Born in the USA moment and misunderstand the movie entirely, but claim it as their own. I'm hoping that's what happens, because then it'll make money, because then all those people will go see it, because it was like, we have to go see the MAGA movie, which isn't really a MAGA movie. And then all the political left people will go, fuck them peoples, and go see the movie just to fight with them. And we'll have a big hit on our hands. That's what I'm hoping.
You pretending that the people on the extreme political left pay to go see movies like that is amusing to me.
A man can hope. Anyway, following that is Abigail, which, to be clear, I'm on that review. We will be reviewing
because
that
Mark can handle the gory horror as long as there's a comedic twinge to it.
I can handle the calendar, and it's on the calendar. And then because it comes out the same week, but we have a free week ahead of us, the new Guy Ritchie jam, The Ministry for Ungentlemanly Warfare, which we're
actually looking forward to that one. I have moderate hopes.
So with that said, we've got Civil War, Monkey Man, Abigail, and The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
The long and the short of that being, it's a pretty dead month. Like, I don't expect any of these to do gangbusters.
Well, no, and I think that's worth pointing out to the people, is not a single one of these pictures is an event compared to GVK.
We really don't. I was gonna say, we really don't have a lot of major event movies coming. We usually talk about how as soon as Memorial Day weekend gets here, we got the big Marvel movie or the big comic book movie or the big Disney movie or whatever that's coming out. And again, we got Deadpool and Wolverine coming out later this year. But other than that, I can't think of any films where it's like the studios are like, all right, get ready, we're ready to release our powerhouse.
No, because the Fall Guy,
hang on.
The Fall Guy's not an event. Go ahead.
Let me tell you what's not coming out this year. Straight up. What is not coming out this year? There is no Marvel movie. They're going to try to claim Deadpool and Wolverine. Not a Marvel movie.
Right.
There is no MCU movie. None.
Right.
There is no Star Wars movie of any variety.
Thank fucking God.
I'm with you on that.
Not disagreeing, but I'm saying it's not here.
Right.
There is no animated Disney movie of any variety. There's a Pixar, but
Moana 2, but Moana 2 is in November.
Okay, so way down the line
Yeah.
for a sequel to a mid-tier movie that people might remember.
Yeah.
In the old days, this would have gone straight to DVD and everyone would have understood. There is no
There's no big DC release film.
there's no DC. There is no who's the other one? All right, blank. It'll come to me later.
There's no major Transformers movie. There's not another Indiana Jones.
Well,
There are no major. I mean, there's some major IP stuff if you count things like Aliens as major IP, which I would, but these are not. But again, not an event picture. That's the thing. Aliens has not been an event franchise
hang on.
quite some time.
Let's to your point. Like, if you want to count Aliens as a somewhat relevant IP, I'll give you that. Never mind how much they've tried to kill it. There is no major IP outside of Deadpool. That's the closest adjacent thing we have to it. There's no major comic book outside of Deadpool. There's no tie-in with any streaming movie. There's no fourth entry into a franchise. These are the things that the last decade of blockbusters have been built more and more and more as time has gone on. We've done an inverted pyramid. And it's all toppled over. And it's just toppled over here.
Yeah, I actually just pulled up major 2024 movie releases. It looks like, honestly, the biggest, epic movie release we're getting this year is Furiosa.
To the extent that you want to qualify, I wouldn't count that one as that. I think it'll be fine.
Furiosa.
But...
I think. Look, my son and I have watched that trailer a bunch, and we're both excited for it, as is my daughter, because big, strong woman who don't need no man. However, can we not play this game where we're taking the same drugs as the people who worked on Fury Road, who think that anything that's an offshoot of that movie is going to be the cause célèbre that fucking Fury Road was? Fury Road was this connection of a bunch of different things all happening at once that produced a masterpiece. And that's coming from the guy who had to fight with Robert about not really liking the movie. I watched it again, and I'm like, all right, I get it now. Got a little older, got a little wiser. But my point is, that's kind of you do it once, and it's a Daffy Duck. You can only do it once, and you blew yourself up. You're done now. That's it. Hey, George Miller, good for you. You have this amazing movie that's now part of the cultural fabric. Please go home. Do something else. Don't keep doing Mad Max. And instead, because everyone loved Fury Road and it made money and blah, blah, yakety schmackety. And oh, by the way, Charlize Theron's character is really cool. So now she needs a fucking origin story. And it's every single time. And I feel bad because Furiosa looks really, really good, but I don't think it's going to do all that well. I certainly don't think it's going to make the billions of dollars I think it's going to.
I think it'll probably be okay. But again, we are bereft of Hollywood has
500 million at best,
which these days might get you a top 5 spot.
Well, currently it'll get you number 2, but
no,
seriously, according to this list, Deadpool 3 and Furiosa, because I'm looking at the others, it's okay, Challengers, The Fall Guy looks good, but I don't think it's going to be that epic. Civil War, no. Inside Out 2.
Why would you qualify Challengers as a major?
Zendaya.
I major 2024 movies.
I don't know.
Other than her ability to read a list, what she's pointing to and that you're not acknowledging is that there are powers that be in philosophies that go, Zendaya is the big attraction there. So Zendaya in a sexy polyamory movie, where they get to play tennis, is an attraction for people, Robert, that live on this planet. I think whether or not it will do well, I don't want to fight you about. But I'm telling you that
it's not going to do well. Let me save you the trouble.
But that is the philosophy going into that movie. It's, hey, Zendaya, polyamory, threesomes, tennis, all of these things are wonderful and will draw people to the theaters like moth to flame.
2.5 years ago, you might have been right.
Maybe. Anyway,
my favorite thing about that? Somebody
What?
edited the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, where instead of watching J. Jonah Jameson release that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, it's the trailer for Challengers. And because he's right next to Zendaya the whole time, and it ends with him going, what the
That's about right. And anyone that's ever been in that relationship dynamic had about the same reaction. Anyway.
Don't purr after that. That's not a good thing.
You know what? I don't have
purr to
drums next
hide
to
your
me.
trauma and your pain, and I understand that, Mark, and I love you. Please don't do it.
Well, I don't have drums, or I would drum instead. I do like a little rim shot. Maybe that's what I need to do. And then you just have like a slight like a little snare drum next to my computer.
Dude, you have a rim shot button
right here.
The delay doesn't work for me, and then it's just so much easier for me to purr. Maybe I have to start doing up judge. Would that make you happy instead of purring?
It would make me less uncomfortable.
Oh my god! All right. Well, gee whiz, this whole podcast is around your comfortability. All right. All of this to say,
I will call HR and we will have the awkward discussion. Mark,
wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last. I've been dragged into HR for making somebody feel uncomfortable that I work with. Now listen.
Can we move on already?
I'm trying to.
Please stop harassing the prisoners, Mark. They're complaining.
But no. All of this to say, Alexis, for the fourth fucking time, that I don't think there's anything coming up in the very near future that's even going to come close to challenging GVK in terms of being a GXK, in terms of being an event. So it's got kind of a free run. It's just going to run out of steam. Is going to be the issue.
Probably very quickly.
I
don't think I'm not saying 60% drop, but 55.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying by the end of the month, we get to Fall Guy. That's the next big release, right? We just went through the April calendar. There ain't much there. So the next big release is the Fall Guy, and yeah, the Fall Guy will win its weekend. And by that point, no one's seeing GXK before, but not because the Fall Guy is this Marvel-esque big event picture. It's a month away, and by that point, this movie will have run out of steam. And that's what's got working against it.
This doesn't strike me as a movie that's going to have great legs. Like, you see it once, you have a good time. I don't think you see it again. I mean, you saw it twice because why exactly?
Two different sets of people I needed to see it with.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have. Though the original. The original GVK I watched twice in a row. I saw it in the theater with my kids, and I went home and I watched it on HBO Max.
Well, so you only paid for it once.
Yes, I didn't pay for it twice this time either. I have an AMC Stubs card, and you, for $20 a month, can have an AMC Stubs membership, and you can get 3 movies free for a week, and discounts.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
All right, so Alexis has a hot date. So let's go. So indeed,
use code W2M Network at checkout. I wish I could actually have legitimately done that. We will sponsor your stuff, people.
I did that during the Roadhouse review. I went into like a whole thing about how come to Florida and come to the Florida Keys for your vacation. I was hoping the tourism board saw it and would send me money.
No. Do you want to know something funny related to that?
What?
The mayor of the Florida Keys has officially denounced that movie.
That's hilarious. All right.
Because bear in mind, not just because it's a crime against humanity, but because they're like, we're not drug infested down here.
That's quality. All right, folks. Here it is, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Well, that says it all.
That's about right.
That looks pretty accurate.
Okay. Over under. I'm setting the over under on on the top critics for this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say 40%. So over or under 40.
Okay. So for the people, it's got a 54% Rotten Tomato meter, but a 92% audience score, which tells you everything you need to know about the modern cinema.
That's about right.
Yeah. All right. Top critics drops it to oy vey.
Whoa!
Holy moly!
You could have taken the under.
Good God!
Jesus
30
Christ!
29%. Jesus!
Wow!
So for people who are wondering what the fuck we're reacting to, when you click from all critics to just top critics, or just the certified top critics, it drops the score from 54 to 29%. Egad.
I think it's illegal. It's illegal to build a roller coaster with a drop like that.
It really is.
Oh, you cheeky girl, you. All right. The verified audience is 92%. The all audience is 92%. Well, there we go.
Tyrannical.
All right. The AI writes, come to Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, for sheer monster mashing spectacle, and stay for that too, because the movie doesn't have much else to offer.
Which we all agreed on.
Yeah, again, turn your brain off. Watch the monsters go smash.
All right.
Yeah, well, what's that line from Doom Patrol? Here come the punchy parts.
Yes, and now we get to the punchy parts. Dulce Pierce of the Sun UK. The script is so nonsensical with the cast delivering the lines with less care than they would a pizza. A jumbo monstrosity.
You know, if I did get a pizza delivered like these lines, I would in fact punch the delivery guy, just for the record.
Nick Johnson of Vanyaland. This may not be the best American Godzilla film or anywhere close to the best Kong, but it's certainly the best evocation of the Toho spirit to emerge from these shores.
No, it's not.
Hang on. No, I got to think. No, it's not. No, it's not. Honestly, Godzilla versus Kong, much as I did not enjoy that, captured the spirit of some of those wacky Godzilla movies better than this.
I agree.
Abby Bernstein of Assignment X. The New Empire has a sincere commitment to its tone, which is being huge and playful without winking directly at us. It's straight-faced dumb fun.
Okay, that's one way to phrase that.
MV Moorhead of Less Hat Moorhead. He doesn't want me to purr anymore.
Yeah, sorry. That one was asking for a purr.
You're allowed to purr after that one.
Oh, I gave you the Popeye instead. As a compromise, instead of purring, unless it's like an actual sexual thing, what if I just do the Popeye? As preposterous as Godzilla X Kong is, it's also genuinely freewheelingly imaginative.
No, it's not.
I was like, you're out of your mind.
What? Who are you trying to suck up to here, sir? Like, this is not an imaginative movie at all. The fact that all I did was reference other movies when doing the plot synopsis ought to tell you something.
Doug Walker, stop jerking off. They tell us this much of Channel Awesome.
Took a break from being a sex pest to type out.
Doug Walker left his closet and put pants on with just enough time to say the following. A good enough time for monster lovers, even if it does feel like King Kong with special appearances by Godzilla at the end. You, sir, are a toaster oven.
A toaster oven is less likely to sexually harass you.
Walter Chaw of Film Freak Central. Terrible in every other conventional way. No good.
Tell us how you really feel.
Not wrong. Not wrong.
Friend of the show, Jeffrey Harris of 401mania.com. Okay. Wingard excels the New Empire when he lets the creatures and the visuals tell the story over banal dialogue. Well, we more or less said that.
No, that's an accurate observation. 1,000,000%. Again, I would have preferred this movie if there were no humans and we just got to the extent that you wanted to subtitle some of the monster interactions, do that. I think that would have been more interesting.
I honestly think subtitling it would make it worse. Honestly, just like let the animals bark and growl at each other for 2 hours, and I'm good with this.
Well, there's some that you have to subtitle, especially when they do the sign language. But short of that, I'm with you, man. I'm down for more experimental stuff like that. I think it would be
Kevin Carr, a fat guy at the movies. Sure, there's some fun monster action, but the dialogue gymnastics required to explain up and down the MonsterVerse wears thin. Oh, was this too much of a movie for you, Kevin?
No,
Wait a minute.
No.
How did he gave it a 2.5 out of 4, and somehow that's still rated as fresh?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. If you get one of those reviews frequently, especially if you're a constant contributor, Rotten Tomatoes will have an editor that reaches out like, so splat or tomato?
What are you saying here, bud? Did Timmy fall in the well?
Hang on. But his point about how stupid the dialogue is and how much of it is just bad exposition dumps, guys, you've lost Kevin Carr. That's how much you've lost here.
Yeah, that's like losing the 10-year-old boy. Ed Whitfield of Trey, Robert Winfree of the Screaming Boy podcast. 135 million worth of Hollywood gruel. All right.
That's
That
a
seems-
little low.
Ed may need a
that seems needlessly combative.
Yeah, Ed may need to go on a vacation for a while. He had the
Look,
South
man,
of
I
France
did-
nights.
Even someone who didn't like the movie at all, I can't say it all, who didn't like the movie, that's a little mean. I've seen genuine Hollywood slop, and there's going to be more of it with Bad Boys 5 or whatever the we're on later this year.
You know me. You know. Look, I am all about my brethren. Hashtag Black folks. I don't want to see Bad Boys 5. Mark Radulich or 4, whatever this is. I don't want to see I saw the
don't know
trailer
if
for
it's
that.
4 or 5, but yeah.
I don't
I
know
saw
why
the-
anyone wants to see Bad Boys 5.
No
like
one
Ba-
does. Again, we
I
don't know.
like
Hang on, I
Bad
can't
Boys
remember if
3.
it's 4 or 5, but whatever it is.
No, it's 4 because we did 3 a couple of years ago.
Well,
and
we
I liked
did
Bad-
one of them a few years ago. I don't know if it was 3 or 4.
It was 3.
But seriously,
Um,
it's like Will Smith has moved on to bigger and better things, and no one gives a rat's ass about Martin Lawrence.
Yeah.
And
And
they
Martin
both
Lawrence is
look like they're 60.
And Martin Lawrence now looks like his character from Big Mama's House without the makeup. He's fat.
Okay. If you're going to make that joke, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, mind you,
Mhm.
get the Scott Steiner clip.
Okay. Another clip that I have to add to the soundboard.
You should have "He's fat" from Scott Steiner on your soundboard, Mark.
Okay. It may be over-the-top blockbuster fare first and foremost, but Adam Wingard's love letter to monster movies is far more intelligently crafted than anyone could have predicted. Oy.
You forgot to
No.
say who said this and where they were from.
Oh, Charlotte Simmons, have we got this covered?
You got nothing covered. Like, this is not an intelligently put together movie at all. Giant swaths of nothing.
Ryan Silverstein of Movie John. If King of the Monsters is Stairway to Heaven, the new empire is running with the devil. The new empire rocks just as hard as King of the Monsters, but is far more into partying with the monsters than it is creating breathtaking tableaus. So this reminds me of the Steve Buscemi thing where he's like, hello, fellow young people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you do, fellow kids?
What a review that was.
Oh, no, it's
Jorge
not.
Rivera Rubio.
I mean, bear in mind, you're already drawing a false equivalency comparing King of the Monsters to Stairway to Heaven.
Jorge Rivera Rubio of Kibo. One of the silliest, most incoherent movies I've seen this year, and I freaking loved it. 5 more like this, please. Oi.
Okay, again, I'm fine with 1 more, not 5. And honestly, you don't want to know why I'm so adamant about getting Space Godzilla in this one. I saw a review for this movie for New Empire the other day, and they mentioned, they didn't say what was going on, but they said there was a reason how the Scar King kept his followers in line, and it was like, oh, so he's got a monster. And again, huge kaiju fan. I was like, oh my god, does he have Gigan? Does he have Anguirus? I'm just freaking. And it's like, and it's this thing that doesn't exist, and they just pulled it out of nowhere. What the fuck? It's like, that's why I'm saying I want Space Godzilla. It's okay. I want to see more of the classic kaiju back on screen.
I know there's more people out there like
Mechagodzilla.
I know there's more people out there like you than there are me. So I'm gonna not make fun of you too much for that, but just I get it. Like, we want to see the stuff we like on screen, and I have my things too, so I can't pick at you too much for it. But like, there's no more story here, people. There's no more story.
Well, hang on. There's no more Kong. We can leave Kong alone. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
We could do 1 more Godzilla, and you know what? If you wanted to drag Kong along and let him play the Godzilla role in this one, where he just shows up at the end for a run-in.
Oh my god, it's King Kong with the chair.
I was gonna say he spiked Dudley in the 3-way ladder match. He's just running out there at the end. Oh my god, it's Spike Dudley.
Only to get tossed off the scaffolding by New Jack. Yes.
I hope so.
By scaffolding, you mean the Empire State Building?
All right.
If by New Jack, I mean Faye Dunaway. Yeah, we know how the
right.
joke goes.
Speaking of Spike Dudley, Amy Nicholson of Washington Post, top critic.
They both did a lot of drugs.
They're both cross-eyed retards. Wingard's not a
Hey,
sentimentalist.
be nice to Spike Dudley.
Wingard's not a sentimentalist, and King Kong stumbles whenever he tries to slap phony emotions onto the film to make it more like a generic crowd pleaser. He's a showman, a popcorn guy with excellent aesthetics.
again, I think the strongest stuff in this movie is some of the stuff in Hollow Earth when we get, bigger expansive panoramas, and you can just kind of let, the visuals tell the story. I do think that's right, and it's not a good movie ultimately. Like you saw it twice, Mark. Tell me, did this hold up the second time around?
So again,
When the novelty's gone, and that they.
I'll tell you this. The answer you're trying to beat out of me through waterboarding and torture is no. This doesn't have a lot of rewatchability. This is one of those movies where I would have it on maybe to go to sleep, and I would only want to watch the monster fight scenes. Everything else is skippable.
I have a name for this, for kind of the syndrome that goes into what people are having with this.
Mm-hmm.
I coined it based on one of my brothers, because he occasionally feels like he needs to rewatch X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Why?
Because in his mind, he remembers the good parts.
Sure.
There were good parts.
It's about. Yes, there are. Don't be weird. There's a couple of good action scenes, and hang on, there are a couple of good action scenes, and any time that Liev Schreiber and Hugh Jackman interact is pretty darn good. It's a shame that pairing was wasted on a movie that bad.
My face at you wasn't that you were scolding Alexis. That's fine. She's, every few minutes she needs a good scolding to keep her in line.
It's not my fault. You got a kink for that.
That one you deserved. That you teed that one up for me.
I didn't say anything.
Your choice of the word weird, like that, I don't know, it feels like the wrong word in that sentence. Anyway, that feels like the wrong word in that sentence is the phrase that pays. So that's the end of our review of Godzilla times Kong: The New Empire. Tomorrow, I love you tomorrow, Jason Teasley, who was not here with us tonight. He's not feeling well. However, he will man up. He will smoke weed, and because it's fucking Friday and it's his day off. So Jason Teasley and I will be looking at the Friday movies, one of which is a cinema classic, and the other two are God's punishment for bad behavior. Oy.
And figuring out which is largely a matter of personal preference.
So my kid's reaction to the first Friday movie was fucking hilarious.
Why would you show that to children?
Because I'm showing them all the classic cinema.
You should not show Friday to a 10-year-old.
Oh, he handled it just fine.
I'm saying you shouldn't.
Okay. Thank you for your advice. My point is their reaction to Friday was fucking hilarious because every 5 minutes, that's where that meme came from. Oh, the meme. Like, oh my god.
That is where you get the
one. There's a couple of well at one point they're like, bye Felicia. And my daughter looks at me like she's Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, yes, Lily. That's where they got bye Felicia from. They also, because I quote so much of Friday around the house, like I need to borrow your VCR so I can dub a tape. I don't know why that line always struck me as hilarious, but it does. And there's like, you ain't got nothing in this house that match. Kool-Aid, no sugar, ham, no burger, peanut butter, no jelly.
Don't you pour that out? Put some water on it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's a quality movie. Anyway,
the best thing about that movie, unironically, Tiny Lister.
Oh, he's great. So anyway, yes, myself and Jason Teasley will be doing the Friday trilogy tomorrow. Are you doing anything Wednesday, Alexis? No.
I don't think so.
You are not. There's nothing on the calendar. And then Thursday, myself and Sean Comer will be taking another deep dive into cinema. We're going to be looking at Waking Life, Run Lola Run, and Marriage Story. And I'm going to see if Marriage Story doesn't get me to throw myself out the nearest window.
It'll get you to throw something out the nearest window. Whether it's yourself or something else remains to be seen.
Or somebody's else.
Somebody else. Damn it, you took it before I could.
It could be another person. Something.
Yep, him and all his stuff. Anyway. But that actually, because I couldn't remember the name of the movie, so I spent a couple of minutes at work today trying to like go through different Wikipedia lists, trying to figure out there's a movie on the tip of my tongue that's part of the cinema, and I can never remember the name of it, and it ended up being Requiem for a Dream. So I'm trying to figure out okay, how can we cover Requiem for a Dream? Do we just do another deep dive into this? Maybe pair it up with Drugstore Cowboy or something? And then I realized who directed it.
It's
Darren Aronofsky.
Aronofsky.
You can
Yeah.
do an Aronofsky stuff.
We are.
easily.
That's the point that I was getting to. Stop rushing me. So I looked through his filmography. We're going to do sometime in the near future. We're doing Requiem for a Dream, The Wrestler, and The Whale.
That's a pretty solid.
Yeah, it's a solid triple feature. Yep.
At least thank God you're staying away from Noah and Mother.
Yeah,
Hey.
damn right we are. All right.
Noah, I will defend Noah, believe it or not.
I can't defend Noah because at the end, when the rainbow shoots out in the spiral, it looks like the Sonic Rainboom from My Little Pony. So when I saw that movie for the first time, I actually said, "That's not God, that's Rainbow Dash."
Last week, myself and Ronnie did an hour talk on the Ghostbusters franchise. Then we did a Ghostbusters Frozen Empire review. Alexis and Robert talked Late Night with the Devil. And then finally, myself.
It was a great interview.
Myself,
Happy to have him back.
Sean Comer, and Andrew Graham compared and spent 2 hours on this, compared and contrasting the old Roadhouse with the new Roadhouse, and had ourselves a fine conversation. Alexis saying
better, new one sucks. It's not that complicated.
Conor McGregor is amazing.
Conor McGregor so desperately wants to be 6 feet tall, he would sell his child for that.
I don't blame him. All right, Alexis Hannah, show us where you're pissed from.
All right. Well, as far as TV party tonight, it's actually looking a little light here in April, if I got the schedule correct, because the only main one I see coming up is Fallout, which originally I said that I would not be hosting because we got another gentleman on.
No, he stepped up. We got a date for it now.
Oh, we do. Okay. Yes. Normally I would host that, but we have another gentleman here on the network who knows the games inside and out. I think he would do a much better job talking about it than I would. So he's going to be, holding the reins for that one. After that, though, we have got quite a few shows coming up. May 8th, we are going to be talking Shogun. Robert, do you still went in on that?
I'm going to do a mark in the sense that I'm happy to talk about it, but if you have other people more passionate and you have if you have to start cutting names, I'm okay being left off of that one.
Okay, because you see, originally we had an opening the day after the finale, and then I remembered, wait, Robert said he likes to binge this. I should probably give him a little bit more of a window to actually binge all the episodes. So far, the only person confirmed on that is David Wright, because we're going to put that East Asian Studies degree of his to the test.
Nice.
After that, we're going to be looking at X-Men 97. We're going to be looking at The Boys coming out soon with season 4. And
I will be the one hosting The Boys. You will be on it. And by the way, you know who is threatening to possibly be on your X-Men show again? Jonas has been loving the shit out of the new X-Men show.
Tell Jonas that Dorian, Jesse, and David have already called dibs.
Okay, when 2 out of the 3 of them don't show up, you let me know, and I'll send in the designated hitter.
You want to make him a designated hitter? I have no problem with that, but I was just saying I already have 3 men who have called up for the big leagues.
Well, I wouldn't want to interrupt your session with 3 men, so no problem. But when one of them doesn't remember and the other one has another obligation and the third one has to go back to his home planet, know that Jonas is waiting in the wings. Anyway, all I wanted to say was he's been enjoying the show. He runs in every once in a while and tells me all the things about. The latest one was, "Hey Dad, did you know how cool Magneto was?" Yes, I'm almost 100, Jonas. I know how cool Magneto is.
I was there when he was originally cool. When we discovered he was originally cool.
Yes.
Do not talk to me. I was there when it was written.
Yes. All right.
Do not quote the old magic to me, which I was there when it was written.
Exactly. Okay. Other than that, working on getting the schedule for Resident Alien season 3. Freudian slip.
Those would be very different shows.
Freudian slip because the anniversary for Resident Evil was actually yesterday.
Yay.
So there was that's why I had that on the schedule. I was like, oh wait, wrong Resident. That and House of the Dragon will be up on the schedule soon. Mark, I'll let you know when we have the dates for Resident Alien. I'm assuming you and I are going to talk about that like we usually do.
Didn't we decide was it that one or something else where we were like, there's nothing to talk about here. Why do we keep doing this? I can't remember. There was something that you and I reviewed where it was where we got kind of halfway through it. We were like, is there anything else? We don't have anything else to talk about. And I don't remember.
No, it wasn't Resident Alien. No, you and I still have 3 shows that we talk about. Upload, Only Murders in the Building, and Resident Alien. Those are our 3 shows.
Okay, I swear to God, Resident Alien was and I'm not arguing with you. I'll do it again.
Yeah.
But I could have sworn with The Last Resident Alien, our conclusion was some shows just shouldn't be reviewed. So, and
that wasn't that one, because
Okay.
you and I spent a lot of time talking about how we think that now that there's others learning that there's alien influences in the town, we're
Okay.
going to see a big showdown in the upcoming
Okay.
season.
You might be right. I might be misremembering. I just know
Yeah.
there was one where we were like, let's not keep doing this. And it was, and don't tell me it was Hailstorm, because it was Hailstorm, because it was more recent than that.
No, I knew it wasn't Hailstorm, because that was ages ago, and that wasn't there's nothing to discuss. That was that show literally made me want to commit suicide. Please don't ever make me talk about it again.
Okay, before you get it demonetized. What else you got in the bag, Toots?
I thought your discussion of polyamory hadn't already done that.
Keep going.
Other than that, of course, the plugs that actually do pay my bills: Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. Right at the moment, we're getting ready to go to LPL Con in Lawrence. Looking forward to that one. That one was first time last year. We had a lot of fun. Excited to be going back. Now, I will say, if you could take a look at our Etsy shop here, we also have a handmade at Amazon shop, and we do actually have kaiju themed jewelry for those who would be interested. Hang on a second. We have our charm bracelet, which actually has almost all the characters who have shown up. You can see Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Rodan, Kong, Mecha Godzilla, the Mutos, and there's Gigan Space Godzilla again. I want to see one of them in the next movie. We got hair barrettes in 2 different sizes, whether or not you got thick hair, long hair, or like Mark, no hair. So
I laugh because I'm gonna look, man. I figure about the time I'm 40, I'm just gonna give up and shave it.
It's kind of what happened with me.
Yeah. So, anyways,
yeah, but you persisted for 20 years without.
Okie dokie.
Anyways, we just uploaded a ton of new stuff, including, for Fallout fans, our new Nuka-Cola charm bracelet with all of the various flavors of Nuka-Cola, including quartz, orange, quantum, cherry, and so on and so forth. I had fun designing that, kind of tried to make it look like old classic Coca-Cola ads. So again, we got that. If you're in the Kansas City area, come out to LPL Con in 2 weeks. That's going to be April 12th and the 13th, if I'm looking at the calendar correctly. Of course, you can find us, like I said, here on Etsy, handmade at Amazon, and you can always follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I will never call it X, and TikTok. Again, that's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
You shouldn't
Robert
dead name
Winfree,
social
show us where
media
you pissed from.
websites. It's not a good look.
What?
You shouldn't dead name social media websites. It's not a good look.
Did you seriously just use the phrase dead name?
I did.
What about the dead fucking podcast, both of you? Robert Winfree, show us where you pissed from.
Alrighty. You can find me covering mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. In fact, I had to turn down a gig tonight to do this. So you're welcome, Mark. That was a pained smile. I appreciate it.
That was very painful.
No, this is my pain smile.
No, that's not your...
hurt. No, that just hurt us.
Yeah, that's your angry smile.
Oh my God, I'm going to angry smile you in a second. Get on with it.
I cover MLW on occasion. They're in a weird spot at the moment, broadcast-wise, so not quite sure how that's playing out. WWE SmackDown on Friday. This is the last SmackDown, the last WWE show before WrestleMania, which is Saturday and Sunday.
Is The Rock actually at a WrestleMania?
The Rock?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to answer that question for you. Do you want me? Yes, he's on night 1.
No. I heard he got injured or something. I saw something that came up on TikTok that I barely recognized. That I thought that he was injured and out of the card entirely.
I have not heard that. So unless that's been breaking during the time we've been doing this podcast, which is not out of the question.
You keep going. I'm gonna look.
Last I heard, he's still scheduled to be in the main event tag team match for night 1 of WrestleMania.
Okay. I believe you.
So again, if he did get hurt over the last 3 hours, wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me one iota, but not aware of it. Speaking of Saturday, I'll be covering the bog standard UFC event. That begins so tune in for that if you're so inclined. most people are going to be paying attention to WrestleMania. I'm well aware of that. And if you want a look into the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts and associated combat sports, I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast on Sundays. This last one reviewed the UFC on ESPN 54 card from Atlantic City on Saturday, which was horribly paced. No reason for that to have taken 6.5 hours. And previewed the upcoming Return to the Warehouse, which is actually slightly better on paper. Then I don't have a whole lot of hope. So I'll be covering that, and you can get a full review of it. But UFC 300 is not this Saturday, but in 2 Saturdays. So we sacrificed a lot to get a couple of stacked pay-per-view cards in a row, $299 and then 300. So let's enjoy it while we can, yeah? So, if you're interested in any all of that, follow that podcast. I cover it there. And you can find me again in the both wrestling and MMA zones of 411mania.com. And we will be back here next week. Right, Mark?
Yes, sir. We'll be back in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
No. Yeah, next week is the Whiskey Rebellion. We're going to be talking the WrestleMania weekend and all other things WrestleMania. And then on Wednesday, and then Wednesday is Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox. We are looking at Ailstorm Voyage of the Dead Marauder. Plus Jesse's, we have a celebrity musician amongst us now. Jesse has released his album Time to Eat.
How much of the song did he write with ChatGPT?
Fucking all of it. Don't you understand? Like,
that's what he's been doing. It's can I do this with just AI? I'll write the lyrics. I'll get the lyrics in one, and then I'll tell the style and whatnot that I want in the other AI program, and we'll just see what comes out.
Yeah, so we have an entire bit dedicated to Jesse's Time to Eat. It's good to be
all right. I'm down. That sounds great.
For the record, we actually, if you want to hear Robert and me discuss the whole concept of AI and art, go check out our Late Night with the Devil review.
Or even better, go to my TikTok where I cut that entire portion out and threw it up yesterday.
You cut out some of it. That tangent, Robert, I love you, but that tangent you went on was so long. I was not able to get all of it on TikTok.
That's okay.
That's also what she said. All right, folks, thank you for joining us here on Damn You Hollywood. For Robert and his long tangent that he likes to show everybody, for Alexis and her jewelry, and for me and my passive aggressiveness, be well, be safe, and behave.